Good evening, everybody. Yes, this is the new book I wrote with Kathleen Soriano, who's a very old friend of mine, and this is the other little essay. So if anyone's interested, I'll leave them over there for the time being. I was asked because I've spent 35 years in and out of working at the Portrait Gallery, and I have written about portraits and talked about portraits almost now for longer than I can remember. But tonight I was invited to come and consider the business of symbolism and drapery stroke clothing, which is why I've worn such a very nice purple ruffled shirt, along with my workaday jeans. And I've done that because how we dress is so very important in our daily lives. And if any of you ever have your portrait painted or come close to having that done, or maybe sit for a well-known or recognized photographer, you, I am sure, will start worrying about what to wear. Because in fact, what you wear will then be recorded and will go down in history and will be connected to you. So, this is a painting that I rather love, which is about, you know, what to wear, but also what the artist is going to be looking at. Here, however, we have a king. And I'm just going to take you through some images of old paintings that show, that have sort of inbuilt into them coded signs and symbols that would have been able to communicate with the viewers at the time about the picture. Now, what's interesting from our point of view is that we can look at this and see a chap with a black hat on and some sort of something round his neck and a bunch of flowers in his hand. Well, some of those things can tell us certain things, but we won't really necessarily know what the Order of the Golden Fleece is, and the fact that this honour was awarded to Henry VIII by Maximilian I, who was related to this young woman, Margaret of Savoy, and that this painting of Henry was a potential marriage portrait. And on the bottom there, you can't really see it here, but it was, the inscription records that the painting was painted on the 29th of November 1505 by order of Hermann Rink. Henry was the idea was that he would marry Margaret of Savoy, and this would be a political union. Now, of course, you have to take yourself back in time and think about the fact that in those days, no photography, nothing. So the business of the painter was even more important than it is today in terms of face making. And this, I'm not quite sure if I would have thought he's the man for me, actually. But looking at him, he's actually commissioned a very good artist, and that is a signal that he was a wealthy chap. He was actually rather wealthy, and he was very good at amassing money, so that actually when his son, Henry VIII, came onto the throne, there was a nice solid amount of money there. But the Order of the Golden Fleece, in order to make the potential connection with the potential bride. And here we see her picture with all of those other signs around her, which are also saying, you know, that she is of the right status to marry someone like him. Okay, so that's signs and symbols. Here are a few more. This is a fantastic painting. You'll have to go to Hatfield House to see this. And it's a painting of Elizabeth I. Actually, she was quite old at the time, but she looks remarkably youthful. What is very exciting is what she's wearing. You can see that her dress is full of ears and eyes And the inference here is that she was all-seeing and all-hearing. So she was pretty powerful and sort of above the Secret Service, if you like. She's also holding this rainbow, and the text, sorry, it's a bit clipped there, the text reads, non sine sole iris, no rainbow without sun. So not only can she hear and see everything, but she is actually the source of light there. She's the rainbow, so she's also sort of redemptive. And she's completely dripping in these white pearls. Gorgeous. I'll just flip back because I think it's quite remarkable. She looks as if she's going to take off here. And she's, of course, white pearls, virginity, all of that. She's always wedded to her country. She's a wonderful ambassador for England. And here, on her sleeve, there is a serpent. Well, the serpent in those days was symbolic of intelligence and wisdom, okay? So signs and symbols change their meanings over time as well. Signs and symbols, here we have this great book. There's some lovely books in there with that exhibition of Harvey. This is the book that any artist worth their position in society would actually go and consult in order to put the correct signs and symbols into their paintings. Here we have another rather good picture of Elizabeth I. This is called the Ditchley portrait because she's standing on Ditchley in Oxfordshire, and you'll notice that the world has come, England's sort of come up to the top of the world there, so it's completely domineering everything. She's ushering good weather in with her fan, and again in white there with another sort of script. This was commissioned. This is a commissioned painting. It was commissioned by this Henry Lee, who is wearing on his sleeve there armillary spheres and true lovers' knots, and that is on his actual clothing is a sort of homage to Elizabeth I. He commissioned the painting because he had got into trouble for going off with a stranger lady, according to Elizabeth I, thereby sort of making their relationship, I don't know. I don't know how their relationship was, but Elizabeth I was annoyed that he had actually gone off with another woman rather than pretending always to be in thrall to Elizabeth I. However, he was forgiven in 1592, and in order to really make this forgiveness public, the painting was commissioned. So reasons for commissions we looked at before. Ludmilla had written, all sorts of reasons. This is another rather unusual reason. Here's another emblem book, this time written by this person, George Whither, and here is George Whither, dressed in 17th century outfit. There's a lovely Cornelius Johnson painting in the exhibition through there, which is very much somebody wearing this sort of outfit. A lot of lace, rather sombre bottom bit, but, fine top. Couple of examples of the sort of emblems that you would have got in this book, so that if you're an artist, you would actually go and look at what you need to use, and there you'll have your sign, which you will then put into your portrait. Here we've got the Horn of Plenty, which still symbolises bountiful situation, and we've got this being used by Rubens in his painting of Ceres and two nymphs. We've also got a little Horn of Plenty one-armed bandit, which just shows you how the symbolisms do go on and on and on, certain ones. And this is the Rubens painting. Here is Artemisia Gentileschi. Now, she has dressed herself, and she is painting herself, and she has put herself forward as literally the embodiment of the art of painting. And she has taken this attitude from Cesare Ripper's book. And this is how this description reads. Painting in Cesare Ripper's book was described as a beautiful woman with full black hair, dishevelled and twisted in various ways, with arched eyebrows that show imaginative thought, a mouth covered with a cloth tied behind her ears, with a chain of gold at her throat from which hangs a mask on which is written imitazione, imitation, the art of painting. And you can see, I wonder if this works here. No. Oh yes, here we are, there it is. But she's also got these important self-portrait accoutrements, but she is dishevelled, isn't she? And rather beautiful. That belongs to the Queen. Another self-portrait, this is quite interesting. Here's Van Dyck. He's showing us a sunflower, which is symbolic of Charles I, his patron, who'd also given him this lovely gold chain. He's pointing to this. Ferdinand Boll, also at the top of that frame, we've got this rather wonderful flower, which is again a business of the whole business of plenty and Charles I indeed. Now this is an interesting commission because, and this is a wonderful painting you might have seen recently at the Royal Academy, it was in that fantastic show. This was commissioned by Charles I of Van Dyck so that it could be sent to Benney in Rome for Benney to make the sculpture of Charles I. So this is a sort of workaday painting, but actually it's a rather magnificent piece of work. When it came to doing the same thing for Henrietta Maria, Charles's wife, Van Dyck said, no, I'm not going to do that again. I think he didn't like playing second fiddle to Bernini. Okay, so you can get the gist of what I'm saying. Certain kings are going to be wearing crowns. This is a very standardized painting from a set of what's known as a set of kings and queens. And here we've got poor King Stephen, who apparently was not cross-eyed in real life. But you can see these sets of paintings, there'll be sets of kings and queens. They were made up so that people could buy them as sets and have them on their walls. A bit like here, up there, we have this set. So they would be, you know, a set of 20 kings and queens, okay? Not necessarily good and reliable likenesses. But talking about reliable likenesses, here we have Henry VIII, completely recognizable. This is a searing image of somebody, and this is thanks to Holbein. And I think it's very, very interesting that most people in the Western world would be able to recognize this person, even though this is way, way before any other reprographic method, like, you know, photos. So I'm going to skip on by because I think I don't want to overrun my time. Complex iconography in this. This is Lady Venetia Digby, crowned by these cherubs, spurning two-faced deceit, standing on profane love, holding the dove of peace, and also she's clutching that snake, which is a snake of wisdom, okay? Be ye therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Here she is on her deathbed. That rose that was blooming is now sort of disintegrating. Here we've got another bit of symbolism coming in. And here we have this Ouroboros, this endless recycling of life, which I just thought was quite a nice little picture to show you. The Gay Cavalier, okay. Here we've got, this is a Memento Mori, and thinking about the idea of Memento Mori, the idea that we're all here just briefly and we're going to die, embodied in painting. So they're having a jolly good time. Just before the beginning of Lent, apparently, this is a painting made there. The skeleton holding up this sands of time running out there in the little hourglass, smoking away. They've drained the tankard of booze. But this is a merry trio. They're not going to be merry for very long. A woman holding a balance. I'm going to finish off very quickly. Balance of life. Painting a rainbow. The colour, can you see this sort of gecko-like thing down the bottom? Kitty Fisher with a cat fishing. Another commissioned portrait with the commissioners described in the background of Highmore's painting. Two authors, books delineating their profession and using ordinary clothes. A soldier, I should have a sailor, but actually I've got a designer. This is Paul Smith hiding behind his cloth, bolt of cloth. This is Amy Silman cheersing death, the symbolism of death, the skull, which is relentless, and what happens when people are portrayed without clothes or with see-through clothes. Dance of death, night clothes rather than day clothes. What does that mean when we start reading a painting like that? Lowry, intense with his scarf. Stephen Hawking in his ordinary suit. And finally, two women clothed and with a veil. Sophonisba Anguissola on the right-hand side as an old lady. Very, very successful artist, really portrayed as a sage, I think, there. And Alice Neal with her paintbrush. And this is a painting that she started in her 50s and finished when she was about 70.